What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllNBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler. Legs, there was so much news over the weekend that we only got to one story yesterday, and then today there's another trade, so we got a jam-packed show today.
Listen, there's no telling what could happen even while we're on the air. And while we're doing this right now, everybody's waiting for the other shoe to drop. And, we'll get to all this stuff. But I'm sitting here in Oklahoma City about to call the Suns-Thunder game tonight. And last night, get a text message late. Kevin Durant's been downgraded to doubtful for the game with a sprained ankle. With a sprained ankle, even though he played all the way through the end of the game the other night against Portland in a loss and looked pretty good. He was still the primary scoring option for them all the way through the game. So unless he rolled that thing on a TV cable, walk into the locker room, nobody really knows what happened. So you can imagine the speculation going on with that designation for the game tonight.
Yeah. We're going to have tomorrow. We usually go live in the morning. We're going to go live in the afternoon/evening tomorrow. I believe we're 6:00 Eastern time because that'll be after the trade deadline. So we'll react to whatever it is that's going to happen over the next 24 hours. I do expect some big trades. I mean, we've already had a bunch, but I expect more. So I think we're going to have nothing short to talk about. You'll want to tune in at a special time tomorrow afternoon. But on today's show, we're going to be talking about this new trade that just happened this morning. Khris Middleton to Washington, Kyle Kuzma to Milwaukee. What does this signal about what the Bucks believe in their roster? And then we'll hit some quick hitters later on, talking the Lakers-Clippers last night, Rockets' brutal loss and losing streak, Embiid's triple-double, Celtics-Cavs, and the Blazers on a run. So we have a jam-packed show. But we're starting with the trade that happened 4 days ago, and that is, of course, the Spurs acquiring De'Aaron Fox in a 3-team deal that saw Zach LaVine go to the Sacramento Kings, and the Bulls get Kevin Huerter. Very strange trade for the Chicago side of it. But you see all the pieces there up on the screen. I want to start with what I think is obviously the headline of this, which is Victor Wembanyama now has a running mate that likely forms the foundation of the Spurs for years to come. At least that's why I think you make this trade. So what do you think of De'Aaron Fox actually getting paired up with Victor Wembanyama this season and beyond?
Absolutely love everything about it. I love the fact that De'Aaron Fox, who's been on a team that's had success here over the last few years, despite lack of playoff success, they've had great regular seasons. So they're a relevant team in the West, and he's a young player, and he's already done big things in this league. And the Spurs were the team that he targeted in his own mind. And, look, there's other teams he could have gone to or tried to get to that would have probably ensured greater, deeper success sooner. But he looked at the bigger picture. This is a very unique player in San Antonio, and Victor Wembanyama. Nobody really knows even what ultimately his ceiling's going to be over the next 5 years. And De'Aaron Fox chose that situation. I think the organization, the stability there, what they've represented to this league for the last 30 years, all of that, just smart decision on his part. And now you've got this incredible guard big man tandem in San Antonio. And now that you've covered those two spots, and Victor Wembanyama is really everywhere on the floor, but you got your point guard locked down. You've got Victor Wembanyama there. The biggest part of this was that San Antonio did not give up Stephon Castle. You didn't have to give up Castle, who I think is a stud. And he's a guy that can play either spot. He's not a great shooter. that can come. I think he's worked on it already to this extent, but he's a great defender. He's a playmaker. He's tough. He's very professional. So they kept him, who was a first-round pick last year. You got the foundation, man. You add some shooting now as we go around these guys. You still have Sohan. Like this is a team now that you look at and say, wow, this is going to happen sooner than later for the San Antonio Spurs. So I absolutely love it from their perspective. For Sacramento, it's an interesting thing. You pair Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan right back up again. I'm not sure what that means for them, and who's going to play point guard for them. But the San Antonio side of it, Adam, I absolutely love it for the Spurs, love it for De'Aaron Fox, and it's great for us because that means San Antonio gets relevant, really relevant a lot sooner.
Yeah. Let's put the Kings part of this to the side. We'll get to them next. But when we look at San Antonio, here's one of the ways to think about it. You're building a foundation, and you mentioned all the other guys, Castle, Sohan. I almost put those guys to the side because who knows if they're part of the long-term plan. That caliber of player, they have the potential to be, but don't necessarily have to be. Those are guys that you can move around once you figure out what your identity is. But you're starting with two-way players. I mean, Wemby is a two-way player. He's elite defensively, probably the best defensive or most impactful defensive player in the NBA. And he has unique offensive talents that are coming along nicely. He'll be a very good offensive player in short order, and on many nights he's that already. De'Aaron Fox is a two-way player. As to your point, he can defend. He's a really good speedy player who can do a bunch of different things, score at a lot of different levels. So your foundation, so many teams start with one two-way player and one guy who's mostly offensive or mostly defensive. And then you have to build pieces around him. I think one thing that's nice is you can look at the how you build a roster around them, and now you can afford to have at least one, maybe two one-way players around them because of how dynamic they are. I feel like that part of this is underrated. When you're starting a foundation, if you have two-way players, it just makes roster construction so much easier.
Oh, that's for sure. I mean, you don't immediately in the aftermath of a trade in the situation you're talking about, smoke clears, and it's always, kind of earth shattering when these things happen with big names. You're not all of a sudden going, okay, we still have these glaring holes to fill. And that's kind of where they sit now. Look, you got a guy that really is just scratching the surface of his prime. That's the great thing about this, the age of De'Aaron Fox and his production. This is going to be tremendous. And he's not an elite level playmaker. He's a big time scorer and he's a good playmaker. He's not elite level by any means. He's not a guy that's going to, consistently draw traffic and make you pay, if you don't play the blitzes on him right or whatever it may be, or get downhill and make any pass available on the court. Like, he's not on that level. He's a good playmaker. But the thing is, a lot of their offense goes through Wembanyama anyway. So this is going to be really fun to watch. De'Aaron Fox, the pace and the push that he plays with, he's as quick as anybody in this league end to end with the basketball. And that is now a scary proposition for teams dealing with that push up the floor with Wembanyama now either running with him or even as the trail with his range.
Yeah, right.
So it's another element to their offense that is going to put them in hyperdrive a lot of nights. And it wasn't the case really to this point. So I'm excited to watch what he does for their ability to change speeds and how that could open up even more opportunities for Victor Wembanyama. Because right now, Victor Wembanyama, the nights I've watched him or covered him, he's really getting manhandled. And the rules, have really changed with regard to perimeter defense in this league. And I'm watching it every night. There's a lot more contact allowed than there was a couple of years ago. And it's affected Victor Wembanyama to where he takes some shots that you want him to take, a little bit off balance. He's so long, sometimes they still go in. But because he's thin, he doesn't have that strong lower base. His handle's kind of high because of how tall he is. People are getting into him pretty bad. So any opportunities you can create where someone else does a lot of the work first before he gets the ball, and now he's got it with space, that's a much scarier proposition for the defense than what the Spurs are operating in now. So I'm really excited to see what that opens up for him.
As an aside, just because you mentioned being off balance, what do you make of his new shot, the one-legged running three? Are you a fan?
Man, I guess I'm a fan when it goes in.
Yeah, but that's the only time you see it. It only makes the highlight reel when it goes in.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre to think that anybody would contemplate that. Like, really.
Steve Nash used to do it.
But hey, man, there are green lights, and then there's his light.
Yeah.
Okay?
Whatever you want.
I don't know if this league's ever seen a light as green as Victor Wembanyama's light. He can do whatever he wants. So, yeah, it's interesting because I don't know what his season percentage is on those shots. And I'm not talking about the ones that are deep into the clock. I've seen him do it like
James can look this up.
Seconds on the shot clock, and he's taken this weird running 1-footer for the three. He's made some when I watch it. He's missed a bunch. I want to know what his percentage is, but yeah, look, man, it's just crazy to think that almost no shot he takes is genuinely, legitimately contested because, where he's releasing it from. He's bothered by guys in his face. Obviously, that's the same thing as pressure in some ways. I'm talking about that, that hand-on-hand pressure when you release the ball, like a real contested shot. He doesn't shoot a whole lot of those.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny one. Who do you think benefits more from this partnership, De'Aaron Fox or Victor Wembanyama? And real quick as a note, I believe, at least this was true of a week ago, Chris Paul assists to Wembanyama is the number one assist duo in the entire NBA. He's an easy target, and if you're a good passer, that's an easy guy to toss to. But who do you think benefits the most?
I think it's clearly Victor Wembanyama, particularly right now, while he is still figuring out how to make the plays he needs to make for other people with the amount of attention he gets. That's still not something that's his strong suit. When that happens, then De'Aaron Fox will benefit mutually. Right now, this is Fox, man. The pressure he puts on you to where you now have to recover off of Wembanyama to provide the help on De'Aaron Fox that you need to plug the gaps that he's splitting. He is so quick to split defenders and be at the rim. So now if Wembanyama's on that opposite side of the floor, like, you have to now rotate more to him than you did before, even more than you had to against Castle and Chris Paul and all those guys. This is a different level of acceleration. So your help has to be sooner. It has to be more off of Wembanyama in the first place, and that stuff's going to lead to ball reversals and kickouts to Wembanyama, either slashing, diving down the opposite side of the lane and catching the ball from wherever he wants and dunking it with one step from like 14 feet, or spot up threes. Eventually, it'll be a mutual thing where Wembanyama now is starting to understand how to get the ball to the right place when he finds traffic. That's still, that's probably, a couple years away before he's really gotten good enough at that where it really helps De'Aaron Fox. For me, this is about Fox and the pressure he puts on defenses with his scoring ability, his quickness, and how that helps Wembanyama get the ball with more space.
Yeah. Some players like Ja Morant have broken through this level. Like when you go to a smaller mid-market, you have to operate at a certain level to break through to superstardom. De'Aaron Fox has been very good, and now he's in a small market in San Antonio, but if Victor Wembanyama's there, you're a marquee team. I just wonder what his profile looks like, because I think De'Aaron Fox, everybody knows he's a very good player. I don't know how popular he is, but now he's standing next to arguably the most popular upcoming player in Wembanyama, and so that puts you on the big stage. He's a very good player. I've always liked him. Now that he's in San Antonio and with a guy like that, I'm just so curious to see what his numbers look like and what his impact looks like and how he molds his game. If we go to the standings here, they are 12th right now, but only 3 games back of the 10 seed, which is the Golden State Warriors. If we look at the landscape in that play-in, Sacramento, who knows what happens there? Phoenix, who knows what happens there? Golden State, who knows what happens there? And then you have Dallas outside the play-in at 11 and San Antonio. So I look at that and I go, I always looked at the Spurs and said, they have a great chance to get into the play-in, and they probably can beat anyone, but I don't know if I would pick them to get out of the play-in. But now that you add Fox, I look at it and I go, I don't know, man. You have to win 2 one-game series, and the team has to adjust with one-day prep to Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox. I actually think they make a very fascinating play-in team right now. And if they were to get out of the play-in, you have a matchup with Chet Holmgren and the Oklahoma City Thunder. How great would that be to get that matchup in the playoffs in round 1? It would be the best series of the first round, even if it's not the series that's in doubt. It's just that matchup you want to watch. So I look at it right now and I go, if I had to pick, I might pick them to be the 8 seed, because I do think that they're going to be able to claw back up to the 10 spot and win a couple games in the play-in.
I see what you're doing. Laying out this path for must-see TV. I think that's awesome what you just did. Also, listen, the way this could play out, what if one of those 2 games that they have to win is against the Kings? That would be pretty fun. That would be pretty fun. De'Aaron Fox going back against the Kings. I mean, and look, I don't think he's got some massive axe to grind. Like, he wanted to go. So it's not like, this isn't like how, what Luka potentially could. Luka might bring a flamethrower into Dallas when they go in there in April. what he might try to do. But I don't think De'Aaron Fox has an extra guy, but it just doesn't matter. It's still his former team matched up against that. It's very possible the way this is going to play out. I expect San Antonio to certainly be better than their winning percentage has been to this point the rest of the way. I also expect Dallas. Look, Dallas is 26-25. They're sitting at 11th. I think, look, as perplexing as this trade has been, and obviously I'm been very vocal about how I feel about it. There's no doubt in my mind that Dallas is going to win now. Like they're talking about in the regular season, they're going to start winning games. I mean, they didn't have Luka. He played 22 games for them. The Mavericks have played 51 games. I mean, he was out for 29 games for that team. Now you've got Anthony Davis in the fold. So now this is a team that's going to start finding a rhythm. They're going to start winning games. I don't have any doubt about that. They're going to climb. Guys, I have no idea what's going to happen with Golden State, Phoenix. We got to see what the Kings look like post De'Aaron Fox. I think Minnesota, Minnesota's they're going to probably be about what they are now. They're going to continue to win about that rate. I'm not worried about them dropping off. But San Antonio, Dallas is going to leapfrog all these teams. I think when it's all said and done, very good chance Dallas is in the top 6, avoids the play-in. And so now that pushes a team like, one of those teams out, maybe the Clippers. I think they're going to catch somebody. And when they do that, they avoid it. Now that play-in becomes a lot more interesting, and we could get a matchup like you're talking about, maybe, San Antonio, Sacramento, and then San Antonio having to play Oklahoma City in the first round to get out of it. That's going to be fascinating play-in because of the characters. I know you might have again. Remember last year we had the guys we had to play in was like KD, Curry,
right. Big names.
LeBron, right? Yeah. Was LeBron, were they in it? So now, you could have Wembanyama in the play-in. You could have potentially Anthony Edwards in the play-in. You could have Steph Curry in the play-in, right? Play-in's is lit in the West, man. Yeah. So let's see how it plays out.
You could have Kevin Durant there, of course, on Golden State. Who knows? We'll find out.
Man, I just pray that Kevin Durant is on Phoenix tonight for this game that I'm calling. And I don't know.
One last hurrah. One last one.
Just give me one, man.
You got the Suns on Friday too, right?
Trade him tomorrow. The guy loves to ball. Let him go get his 35 tonight on this national TV game with Legler on the call. Come on, man.
Yeah. Back at his own old home, Oklahoma City. Let's go to the Kings side of this now real quickly. So they already were a team to me that had figured something out under Malik Monk, under Coach Christie, and then with Malik Monk taking more of the helm. It's part of what I think made the Fox move possible, although I think this was probably coming one way or another. But Malik Monk's emergence as a real point guard, could really distribute, I think made this easier. But what they were was a great offense and not a great defense with their core guys. And you swap Fox, who can play defense, for Zach LaVine, who can't play defense. And I look at this and go, you're almost doubling down on offense. I think Zach LaVine, he provides some extra shooting. He's just as quick in a lot of ways with the first step, dynamic with the ball. But defensively now I look at this team and go, I don't know what this is, man. I think it'll be fun. I think they'll have some exciting wins, but I don't know that I can take them seriously with this group. Not more seriously than I took them before, which I was already skeptical. How do you feel about them?
I'm not feeling great about it at all. I don't know. That didn't do much for me, man. You just lost. Look, it's not as if, they just made a conscious decision. We don't want De'Aaron Fox anymore. This came to be over a period of time where, De'Aaron Fox kind of wanted to move on. It made sense for them. I don't know that I'm looking at their team going forward. What are you excited about more with regard to the Kings now? Like, you're just not. There's nothing. You're more excited for San Antonio in a big way. And typically in trades, you're clearly more excited, usually for one team or the other. Not always. Sometimes you go, hey, it makes sense for both teams. Sometimes you go, that just does nothing for me either way. That's not very often. Usually it's, I love this from this team standpoint, not so much from the other team. It's not like I hate it. Zach LaVine's a really good player. I just don't know to your point, what exactly is this going to look like going forward? And I do want to know, it's interesting to me, like, do you go to DeMar DeRozan before this and go, hey, just want to make sure, man. Like, you guys are cool, right? Like, like, and I'm not saying there's any reason to think they're not, but it's just kind of bizarre that they were paired up all that time in Chicago. They didn't do any winning. No one really loved the product. And now we relocate both of them in Sacramento and let them run this thing back without their starting point guard. It's just kind of weird to me, man. So here's how I feel about this as far as the Kings. It's definitely one of those where let me just watch this for, 5, 8, 10 games and get a feel for if I like this better or not. Some of the adrenaline, by the way, has worn off a little bit with the coaching change. They were definitely playing harder, better. They were winning games when they made the change. Doug Christie, was doing a great job managing the situation. They had some really good quality wins in there. They've come back to earth a little bit here. And now they made the trade, and there's going to be post-fallout from the trade because De'Aaron Fox is a very popular player there. Let's see. That's all I can say about the Kings. Let's see. But there's nothing right now, Adam, on paper that I go, oh, yeah, this is where they're going to be a lot better. I don't see that right now.
I do say in the Bulls comparison, I think the rest of the roster is a lot better than what they saw, when they were in Chicago. But at the same time, they're in the West, not the East, which is obviously more competitive and a more deep conference, at least, most years, and including this year, just deeper when you get into that middle, which is where they are. Yeah, I don't know about this one. I will say they did acquire 2 first-round picks. I know it shows 3, but that Charlotte one is almost likely to become 2 seconds. The 2031 pick from Minnesota that they got could be a great one. I mean, Minnesota is a franchise and a team that you just never know what direction they're heading or when the wheels will fall off. So they did acquire either as trade assets or just to hit the reset button whenever this is over. I do think they set themselves up nicely for that, and maybe that was the biggest part of this.
Hey, at least one last thing. At least, thank goodness, I'm so glad you didn't say, they got a couple of second round picks, because I just found 2 of those in my backpack.
Hey,
I was going through it. I was cleaning out my backpack. I found 2 second round picks. I couldn't believe it.
Nikola Jokic, Draymond Green. There's some good second round picks out there, man. I'm just saying, you never know what you got. You never know what you got, man.
Of the 60 NBA drafts we've had, or whatever it is. Here we go. Let's reference those guys. All right.
Let's take a break. On the other side, we're going to break down a trade that just went live this morning, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks moving on from Khris Middleton, who helped win them a championship, for Kyle Kuzma, as well as a whole bunch of stuff that went on in the association last night. First, Super Bowl 59, just a couple days away. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities, and there's no bigger way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether you're predicting the first touchdown, who will take home the MVP trophy, or the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to place your bets and feel the thrill of every moment. The Super Bowl really is a lot of fun to bet on. That's my biggest gambling day of the entire year. With live betting all game long, you can jump into the action, adjust your bets, and ride the wave of excitement from kickoff to the final whistle. Plus, to make the Super Bowl even sweeter, new customers can score $200 when you make your first bet. Just place a $5 bet, and if you win, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com/AllNBA and bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. You got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Also want to tell you guys about Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized sunglasses that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company, I like that, offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all of your outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style, and they probably have a style in your team's favorite colors. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code AC35 for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right, back here, segment 2, and I want to let you guys know that we have a watch-along coming up on Monday that you're going to want to be a part of through Playback, the Playback app. We're going to be doing like a Manning Cast NFL Red Zone style watch-along. that I think is going to be awesome. We're going to do 4 of these where we're starting on Monday. You got to download the playback. You can see it down there, playback.tv/all-NBA show. Go there now. Sign up so that you don't miss out on this on Monday. We might have some guests coming through, including some high-profile ones. And we're just going to be watching the game so you can hear mine and Legs' unfiltered takes and things that are going on in the game, things we're thinking about. You can ask questions directly through the on that channel. It's really, really cool second screen opportunity that allows you to watch the game and hear Legs and I go back and forth about what we're seeing. I'm pretty pumped for this, Legs.
I can't wait, man. It's not often, you get to do this and this is kind of what I'd be doing at home. And whether I'm by myself, sitting there with my wife, or I'm with a buddy, whatever, watching a game, and it's just going to be kind of like unfiltered. The only thing I'll do is I'll clean up some of the profanity that I typically use when I'm watching NBA game. When things really perplex me that I see. So I'll do that.
And there's a great slate. We'll catch a lot of end of games. We'll flip around for 2 hours, and it'll just be a really good time. So you're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be great content. So go to playback that you saw there on the screen. All right, let's get into the other move that happened, and this just went down this morning. The Washington Wizards have acquired Khris Middleton, who will be on an expiring contract next season, AJ Johnson, who was their first-round pick this year, plus a pick swap. The Milwaukee Bucks get Kyle Kuzma, Patrick Baldwin Jr., and a second-round pick. So this is really, the AJ Johnson piece of this is interesting for Washington, but let's start with the Bucks. They're giving up on Khris Middleton, who's obviously just been star-crossed since the championship with health and injuries and even personal things in his life. I think he just was not the same player, and more importantly, could you count on him? You're making one last push here in this Dame Giannis era. So you bring in Kyle Kuzma, who has been in a weird purgatory, NBA purgatory for the last several years on this tanking team. He was good at the third man role, years back with the Lakers. Do you see this working out? Because all the numbers for Kuzma are horrible. So do you see this working out where he can slide back into a role that's maybe better for him and help out the Bucks?
I do think he'll be better in this role for sure. And I even go back, I will say this, the beginning of Kyle Kuzma's career, I kind of had some sympathy for him in this regard. Like, he started out his career and he really caught everybody by surprise with his performance in the Vegas Summer League before the draft. That's where it all began for Kyle Kuzma. He lit it up out there, ended up playing his way. I believe he was the last pick of the first round, if I'm not mistaken. He was like right around there. Played his way into that. He wasn't on the radar for that. Wasn't a three-point shooter in college at all, and had some very productive years for the Lakers in those first couple of years. And they were bad, and he got a lot of run. He got a lot of shots, played very well. Everything was on the rise. And then LeBron came back to town, and that mattered because they went overnight. He was starting, right? And he prior to that, and just young player, you think, man, this is great. It's going to keep going like this. I'm on the rise. Who knows what the ceiling is for me? I might be a 23, 24 point scorer in this league. LeBron comes back to town. They get AD, and now it's like, no, we're going to try to win a championship this year. You're going to come off the bench. His shots were cut in half, and so for a young player, even though you're winning and you're more relevant, that's great. But at the same time, when you're that young and you're having success, it's hard. It's a hard adjustment to make. Playing times cut, shots cut, really importance cut, rhythm not as good. And next thing you know, we're kind of viewing Kyle Kuzma differently. And he goes to Washington, and now they go, okay, be one of the primary guys. It's been hard for him, number one, to stay healthy. It's been hard for him to be consistent with his production. He is talented. He can score. He can rebound decently too for his spot. Yeah. I think this role now, you plug him into a role on a good team that's playing with expectations. I actually think this is a great spot for Kyle Kuzma. Now, look, he hasn't shot the three well throughout his career, and it's really down this year, I think 28%. And that's a big part of the way the Bucks play, playing off Lillard and Giannis. You got to spot up weight, and you got to knock those down at a higher rate because they have some guys that can do it. So, you're going to have different options for Doc Rivers. If Kyle Kuzma has one of those nights he's not feeling it, he won't play. If he can knock down that shot, because the quality shot, make no mistake, will be better than any shots he was getting in Washington. He's going to get cleaner looks, more time, spotted up, on balance. If he shoots that shot at a decent clip, this could be a situation where he's kind of respected and appreciated again the way he was in the very beginning of his career, because he'll be on a team that's playing for something and he's got a role. And if he fills that role well, it's way more important to average 14 and shoot the ball well for the Bucks than averaging 20 for the Wizards. It just is. It's just a totally different way that you're viewed. And I think he's got a chance to do that in Milwaukee. I feel bad for Khris Middleton. I mean, it's, who knows where this leads to for him. He's got a player option next year, but if he opts out, he'll never get $34 million from anybody else. So I don't know what he's about to do, but you feel bad. The guy spent his whole career there. I think he's your third leading scorer in franchise history. He actually looked really good on Sunday when I called the game against Memphis. Best I've seen him look in a few years. But now he goes to a place that obviously it's just a mess in Washington. So we'll see what happens with him going forward. But I think this is a good spot for Kuzma. I really do. I think that he has a chance to have an impact with them.
What things does Kuzma do that Middleton doesn't? Even like if we talk about this version of Middleton, is there something that you think Kuzma brings that'll be like, hey, they didn't have that in Middleton, whatever you think of how you compare
Absolutely. Two things. First is he's a very good weak side slasher. Very good. Like he's always been that. He's very good at cutting from opposite corner along the baseline with the right timing and can finish. He's good from the wing, slashing into the lane. That's important when you play with guys that command the attention of Lillard and Antetokounmpo, and heads turn. People start watching the ball. He's very good at that. That's not something Khris Middleton, not since probably 5 years ago. He hasn't been able to do that. Khris Middleton is he does a lot of standstill shooting now. A little bit, he can get into it off the dribble and fewer dribbles now. And he's a good passer. Middleton is certainly a better playmaker than Kuzma. And Doc Rivers even told us on Sunday before the game in the pregame interview that that Khris Middleton was their best playmaker. It's even then. And they trade him. So Kuzma can't do that. But his weak side slashing, absolutely. He's offensive rebounding. He can do things like that to help you. And I also think when they play faster, he's certainly faster up the floor and running
just
to
more
a
athletic
spot
in general.
For a 3 in transition. He's younger. He's got bouncier legs. He's just got more energy. There are some things he can do that Middleton can't. The one thing he absolutely cannot do that Khris Middleton can do at the level he can, and even still with 2 ankle surgeries, that dude is still an efficient sniper in mid-range jump shots. It's incredible at this stage of his career with all the injuries. He's still doing that at a high level, and that's a big part of an offense for a team. Kuzma's an inefficient player. He has been his whole career. There's no mistaking that. So there are things he brings to the table. There are some things you can't replicate that Khris Middleton did.
Does this move the needle at all at how you think about the Milwaukee Bucks' chances this year?
No, it doesn't for me, and I'm going to tell you why. And look, I know it's short-sighted because who knows what could happen with Middleton. I mean, he had so many injuries. He looked so good on Sunday in the Memphis game. And I'm sitting there going, man, he looks like he got off the floor well, contested. He made 3 threes, contested, like guys draped on him. He had a couple mid-range shots and getting to his spot. And I know defensively he's lost a lot. He used to be a great perimeter defender. He's not that anymore. But I was watching it go, man, if they can get Khris Middleton back and they continue to play him 24 minutes a night and he keep him fresh and he stays healthy, this is a big bonus for their offense. Now they've got some massive, for some reason, defensive issues over the last 5 games, the Bucks, because they went from 18th defensively to 7th in defensive rating in a period of 6 weeks. And now 4 of their last 5 games they've lost, and they're giving up 130 a night. Who knows? And part of it was Bobby Portis hasn't been there. And Doc said that means they got to play smaller lineups. They're terrible with small ball. He hates their small ball defensive lineups. So I don't know what's going on with the Bucks defensively right now, but Middleton was starting to round into form, man. And I was going, So for me, I was starting to get a little bit excited about what that could be in the postseason for the Bucks. So it doesn't really move the needle for me unless Kuzma plays great in this role. Then we can revisit this 10 games from now, and I'll let you know if I've changed my mind.
The only other angle on this trade for me is that the Bucks do duck below the second apron. And that does a couple things for them. One, if they're above that second apron, their pick gets frozen. I can't remember if it's 2031 or 2032 gets frozen. It's part of the abstract different things that happen with this new apron, one of the penalties you get. But the other thing was they wouldn't be able to sign buyout candidates. There's restrictions on how you could sign. So they might, now that they got below it, they may have some flexibility to make another move or add a buyout player, which for them, they're the type of team that could make a difference. A Bruce Brown, a Lonzo Ball. Like there's some of these guys they may be able to acquire that I think would make a difference for them. And that wasn't a possibility when they were above the apron. So we'll see what happens with them. I'm with you. This doesn't move me. It doesn't move me in a negative or positive way. I understand why the Bucks did it, but they're kind of in that same tier that I saw them before, which is they have Giannis, anything's possible, but I'm not picking them. Let's get a couple layup lines in here. I know we're late. This is like coming out of halftime layup lines. This is like 2 minutes worth of layup lines after we've already warmed up. Last night, the Lakers, Luka makes his debut, at least in the not Staples Center, in Crypto.com Arena. He makes his debut on the bench, and LeBron performed like he was trying to impress his new teammate. He was unbelievable, and the Lakers handed a beatdown to the Clippers. What did you make of LeBron's performance last night, Luka being in the building, and the Clippers getting blown out?
Man, first of all, what a just a strange scene, man.
It's so weird. It gets
so
weirder
weird.
every day.
Luka's sitting there and in his like warm up gear, Lakers gear, and he's just kind of sitting smiling the entire time. At no point did they show Luka he wasn't smiling. Did a lot of clapping. LeBron had a couple funny moments with him when he flexed on a couple 3-point plays and he went over toward Luka. Luka laughed, and I'm just going, is this really about to happen? I know. This really did happen. And I'm sitting there and I was watching and he kept zooming in on Luka a lot, obviously. And he's kind of sitting there and he's rubbing his chin a lot and he's just pensively sort of looking at, and I'm saying to myself, no matter what he presented with his presser, no matter what he presented with, he did a little video getting off the plane in LA, man, can't wait for the fans. This dude's head has to be spinning.
I know.
Like Linda Blair in The Exorcist, right? And probably some of that green projectile vomit came out when he found out he got traded, to be honest with you. So there's probably even more similarities there. His internally, what he must be feeling in his gut, his chest, his head, like he's not going to be comfortable, man, emotionally for a while. And I kind of felt for him sitting there and people might be like, oh, he's going to the Lakers and, don't feel bad for guys, making that kind of money. He's going to the Lakers. Yeah, I don't understand. He's a human being, man.
Yeah.
I got traded once in my career. I'm not Luka Doncic. I got traded once, and it's the most unsettling. And it was from the team that I had my greatest success with in Washington. And so same thing with Luka. Like, it's the team it's the only team he knew. And he thought he was going to be there his whole career. I thought I'd finish my career in Washington. It's like, so no matter what the next stop looks like, it's emotionally just so much turmoil going on, man. And you got a family, you got a young child.
Yeah.
Like there's all kinds of stuff. That's honestly my biggest takeaway from the game, other than, how the Lakers played incredible. It's one of the best I've seen the Lakers look all year. The Clippers had no answer for them at all. The Lakers were unbelievable in this game. It was like looking at Luka thinking, man, what's going through this guy's head? I just so desperately wanted to get inside his thought bubble to find out what he's really thinking sitting there. But look, the game, Lakers were unbelievable. LeBron, again, looked like the youngest guy in the court. It doesn't make any sense. Defies logic.
I know.
And, Dorian Finney-Smith played like I was watching him. I'm like, man, this was like the most understated little sneaky move. We didn't talk much about Dorian Finney-Smith at all. Dorian Finney-Smith's a really important piece for the Lakers. He didn't have a big scoring game last night, but just watching his defense and his energy, and he's smart. It's a nice pickup for them. Hachimura was great. LeBron was great. Austin Reeves was great. Brownie hit his first three. I mean, it was just one of those nights for the Lakers.
Everything. Yeah. Here's what I felt last night, because I agreed with you that I was thinking about Luka. Like, you could just tell his expression. He had the smile and stuff, but you could just tell he was like in a daze almost, because as you mentioned, this has got to be the weirdest 72 hours of his life. But the other thing I kept thinking was, and I hate myself for this, LeBron seems excited to be playing with Luka. And when the trade went down, my first initial thought was, okay, they're building for after LeBron. Maybe LeBron wants out. We've heard rumors that maybe he's going to go here or do this or that. And when I was sitting there last night, I was just thinking, what if this is actually the plan? I mean, it seems like it is, but what if this is actually LeBron has new life? He's excited to be playing with Luka. You get the two of them. That's not a pairing I would have put together as in like, oh, that's a perfect 1-2. But there's, their roster's incomplete, but there's 24 more hours for them to make a move. And if anybody pulls off another move, it's the Lakers. There's been rumors of them being tied to various bigs, including Walker Kessler and Miles Turner. And so my thought last night, watching LeBron play at the level he was playing at, was I'm not going to bury the Lakers just yet. They're still in that 5 seed. They're basically tied with Denver. And there's just a chance that this is we always pair superstars. You wonder if it's going to work. This might be a thing that we get to and go like, that's just a lot of talent. And their holes don't matter as much because they're just so talented.
Yeah. Clearly that's how I feel about that with Luka too. I mean, I don't know how it's going to go with him and LeBron, but it could go incredibly well. You're talking about two, this, okay. I think in history of the league, these two guys, along with Magic Johnson, get the ball from point A to point B with more decisiveness, with more velocity, and in the context of the proper read at a higher level than any two players have ever played.
Yeah.
And that's what you now have on the floor at the same time. Now, that doesn't mean, okay, then who's going to stop them? Doesn't mean that. There's stuff to work out. I remember I always go back to it. The first 17 games that LeBron and D-Wade played together, they were so deferential toward each other, like overly deferential toward each other, that they were 9-8 because they didn't really understand, man, just go be you. I'm so good. I'm going to be fine too. Don't think too much. And there's going to be some serious thinking going on at the beginning of this. And that takes time. And look, it's a defensive thing you got to work out with Luka on the floor too.
Yeah.
And protecting him and so there's a lot that's going to have to be unwrapped, and it's going to take some time now. But having said all of that, they could get to March 15th and they've got an X number of games under their belt and it's starting to click. And if it does, you're talking about two of the most dominant players who have ever played on the floor at the same time, and they could beat you in every way. That's a very tantalizing thing to think about. Man, now obviously they're undersized. They're trying to find a big here before the deadline tomorrow. We'll see if they're able to do that because they definitely need more size up front because defensively that's going to be a problem for them. But offensively, they could be so good they can cover up some of those deficiencies even if they don't add that.
Our next layup line here, this is what's brutal about when you're a top echelon team. You can be great for 55 games, but if you go on a 4-game losing streak, you lose your foothold in whatever position you had. The Houston Rockets are learning that lesson the hard way because they have now dropped 4 in a row. Legs, they were good every week of the season until this week. They have one bad week, drop 4 in a row, and what do you know? They're in the 3 seed, and now Denver's within striking distance, just 1 game back of them to send them all the way down to the 4 seed. So they had a rough one, but none more rough than last night. Reminds you almost of Rodney Rogers, 8 points in 9 seconds. They were up 4 points with 4 seconds to go and somehow managed a way to lose this game. Walk us through what happened there.
Well, so all right, full disclosure, they're up 4. Brooklyn's taking the ball side out with around 8 seconds to go. Yeah. And they get it in, they hit a 3. Teams are going to do that. Hit a 3, tough shot. Ball goes through the net. I don't know, there's 3 seconds left or something.
3.3, I think.
Still up 1.
Yeah.
And Amen Thompson, ball goes through the net. He just happens to be standing right under the basket when it goes through the net. And I don't know if they talked about this or what they were going to do if they hit a 3. It looked to me like he just sort of grabbed it, jumped out of bounds because he thought he could get it in fairly quickly. And there was terrible spacing, and he tries to throw the ball right in front of him under the rim to a teammate, and there's contact there, maybe a hold, but the ball just literally just goes right up the lane as a loose ball from out of bounds, and they end up picking it up. Brooklyn picks it up, hit the shot, win the game. A brutal, one of the worst losses I've seen this year. Up 4, defending a side out of bounds, man, inside 10 seconds to go, what are the numbers say the percentages you win that game? 99% of the time you're going to win that game. And they didn't. And the reason it's magnified is because it is their fourth straight loss. And they had another bad loss during the stretch against Memphis where they just had terrible possessions down the stretch of that game, and they lose by 1. Turnovers, bad shots, 2 minutes of really ugly basketball, and Memphis steals one against them. And now you lose this one. And by the way, this is the second time to Brooklyn in the last 4 games. So 2 of those 4 losses are to Brooklyn. The other one is the bad loss to Memphis late. And then, of course, the Knicks. No shame in that. And they played pretty well in that game, actually. But, yeah, okay, 4 straight. And now all of a sudden you look up, Denver's right behind them, about to jump them. And then the Lakers now 1 game behind them in the loss column, and they just added Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
So you go from Houston, 2 spot for a long time. You play 1 rough stretch of basketball, and it's amazing, like you said, what the doors that opens up for other people. And I still really like this team a lot, but this has been a bad stretch. And one thing it does raise, Adam, late game closing for the Rockets. Yeah. And you imagine in a tight playoff series, because you're not going to trust Jalen Green in that spot. He's a very good player. He's talented, explosive scorer. You're not trusting him to do something really smart with the ball in that situation to get a good shot off. You're not trusting Dylan Brooks. Thompson's not ready for that yet in a playoff spot. Van Fleet, look, he's a champion, limited a little bit with what you can do with him. And then Şengün, he's like a smaller, lesser version of Jokic, but that's saying a lot. I mean, so where do you go late game for the Rockets if you're in a 7-game series in one of these teams, which they will be? So it's raised its a little bit, I think, just something at least to go, interesting. Couple really tough losses here in the last week, and now they've got to turn this thing around, and let's see them now execute against good teams when it really matters going forward. That's where I'm at with Houston, but I'm certainly not remotely turning the page on them. They're really good, and they have a future superstar in Amen Thompson, there's no doubt.
Well, it just shows you how tough this is, because 1 week ago today, they were the 2 seed. Kind of firmly as the 2 seed. Today, they're closer or as close to the 6 seed as they are the 2 seed. They're in the 3, but they're 3 games up of the 6 seed and 3 games back of the 2 seed. A lot can change in a week in this league, man. Let's also talk real quick. Joel Embiid returned last night, and he messed around and got a triple-double as they get the win. The 76ers got a much-needed win over the Dallas Mavericks, shorthanded Dallas Mavericks. But a triple-double for Joel Embiid in his debut, you got to be encouraged by this.
I mean, there's no question about it. And it's just wild because we know what the talent level is. This has been a brutal year for him. He even said he feels really good, but he doesn't know how long it's going to last, basically. I mean, you're like, what? So he obviously has a lot of doubt probably in his own mind now. If he can stay healthy, the numbers, we post them all the time, the number of games he's missed for them, it's almost equal to the number of games he's played since they got him, which is incredible. So who knows what it means going forward. All he did last night was remind you how dominant he is. I think Luka is the overall most dominant offensive player. Jokic and Luka, take your pick. Embiid's right there with them, man. As far as the individual dominant scorer, there's no matchup for Embiid. There's nothing. So that's what all it reminded you of, and what could have been for this team, and maybe what will be if they get hot after the All-Star break and they got all these guys out there together. They're only a couple games back, like the 8 seed. So, they've been out of the play-in for a long time. They'll play their way into it. And guess what? Imagine the Sixers in the first round. That's who you get if Embiid is healthy. Paul George, Tyrese Maxey. This is the team that you get in the first round. That's your reward. Cavaliers, maybe, Boston, that's what you end up with. So the East could get very, very interesting if he's able to stay back.
The other game, you mentioned it real quick, but the Cavs lost to the Celtics last night. Celtics kind of controlled the game, to be honest with you. And these are the marquee matchups you're kind of interested in because they're the top of the Eastern standings, but they get the easy win over them. Cavs still have a 5-game cushion, but I just take note of the fact that the Cavs were really great for the first half of the season. This last little bit, they've taken some losses to high-profile teams. Do you make anything of last night's game?
Last night's game, I do. Overall with the Cavs, no. Look, they're really good. I mean, they're really good. And right now, it's still hard to imagine it not being Cleveland, Boston in the conference finals. The Knicks are going to have a lot to say about that, obviously. And we'll see what happens with Milwaukee going forward. The only other team, Orlando, I don't think, not this year for them. Philly could make it interesting, but it looks like it's Boston, Cleveland. So this is an interesting game, and they're out there. And, Boston, to me, I thought Boston was able to turn up the heat on Cleveland defensively at a level that you expect Boston to be at their best. They've had a very up and down year. A lot of people wondering what's wrong with the Celtics. I continue to say, just wait till they smell the flowers of springtime in the air and they know the playoffs are around the corner. Like, that'll kick in. We got a chance to repeat. Let's go for it. Let's turn it up, because they have been a little bit listless, overly infatuated with the 3-point shot a lot of nights, let you beat them. This was a really strong game for Boston on both ends of the floor. And it was, I thought, very impressive. And they held Cleveland to 28% from the 3-point line, and that's an enormous part of their game. And they had some clean looks, but I thought Boston's commitment to that shot, defending that shot, was the difference in the game.
A month ago, the Portland Trailblazers had lost 5 in a row and were sitting at just 13-28. But what do you know? They've won 9 of their last 10, including 2 wins over Orlando, Milwaukee, 2 wins over Phoenix in the DeAndre Ayton Revenge Tour that happens every year, and then the Indiana Pacers, which is a great win. And by the way, it was a blowout win. So they've won 9 out of 10. This was a tanking team, and all of a sudden they flipped the switch, and now they're playing well. Scoot Henderson looks incredible, and they have a whole host of players, Shaedon Sharpe to Damani Kamara. Like, they have guys that are starting to look like guys. I have to imagine, tanking, when you're tanking, everybody wants just to get the number 1 pick. But I have to imagine this is good for a Portland team that's been in limbo a little bit, to have a stretch like this, even if it ends, to have a stretch like this where everybody gets a taste of what it looks like to get on a roll and to play great basketball. What do you make of this run they're on?
Well, Adam, as I often say, with the Blazers, I'm watching every game every night the Blazers play. Right. I don't think I've missed one this year. So I've been carefully watching this run, this 9-1 stretch. And I've got so much to say. I think we should probably hold off for another day so I can break down everything the Blazers are doing, because it's actually too much content for me to even cover right now. So it's not fair to them. Obviously, everything I just said is tongue-in-cheek. I have not been watching the Portland Trailblazers, and I'm going to be honest with you.
We got to get them on the list, though.
No. They've punched the ticket. They make a longer discussion because of how they're playing. And I love Chauncey, former colleague. Chauncey and I, buddies, and I'm pulling for the guy to win some games. But I got to be honest with you, I'm not watching the Portland Trailblazers. Okay. In fact, when you told me before the show, man, they've won 9 out of 10. I was like, what? That's really where I was at with the Blazers. So I'm going to, I promise you, dive a little deeper on the Blazers, and I want to have a better discussion on them. Who do they have? I want to see, who do they have coming up?
So on Monday they play Denver while we're doing our live show, our watch along. So we might have to flip over to that game.
That's the perfect time to get into it. I love it. All right.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
All right. It is. We do got to get some shout outs. This is presented by FanDuel. We do it every week. We try to shout out somebody, maybe a little under the radar, just somebody that caught our attention. And it's presented by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllNBA. I'll go first here, Legs. My shout out this week, a guy who did not miss a shot yesterday in helping his team get a win, and who has been playing more since certain trades have gone down. And that is Matas Buzelis, the rookie for the Chicago Bulls, who's been in double figures for 4 straight games, shot better than 50% in all 4 of those games, including last night where he was a perfect 10 of 10 for 24 points. If you watch this guy, he is a saucy game. He's dunks really easy, he's in the dunk contest, gets off his feet really easy. He's skinny as a stick, and he just has like a swagger about him that, he has like this FU style to him. I like him. And now with the Bulls kind of making the moves they have, I just think he's going to play a lot, and he's kind of worth watching.
Totally agree. Fun player, super bouncy, very high energy, man. And I really liked him. Also, you go back to like the night of the draft, I watched a lot of, I didn't know much about him until then. I watched all the film on all those guys that could have been first rounders. And I started to really kind of fall in love with this guy in the film I was watching. And look, he's in a situation no one's really been paying a lot of attention to that team, but he's worth watching. And you're right. Now there might be even an expanded role for him going forward. So I totally agree. It's a good one.
He reminds me real quick of Rudy Fernandez. If you remember Rudy Fernandez, he reminds me. I think Buzelis is going to be better, but Rudy Fernandez, you look at him and you think, okay, shooter, European, whatever, and he's trying to dunk on you all the time. He's just constantly attacking the rim. Buzelis has that where he's kind of an attacker.
Totally agree with you. And look, to your point, Rudy Fernandez was a good player. I do hope Buzelis' ceiling is higher, and I think it will be. He's fun, man. He's fearless. He's really tough, hard-nosed. And like you said, there's nobody in the league he won't try it on. And that just makes him fun. The crowd loves him there. So he's got a very bright future ahead of him. My shout out is, to me, there's only one it could be. On the planet, you could ask me to go outside basketball and give me a shout out to any human being walking the face of the earth right now. It has to be Rob Pelinka. Who else could it be? Who else could it be?
Do you see the leather jacket, like that was like an extra small he had on for the press conference? I was so annoyed.
Yeah, he had on the schmedium. He did. He had the schmedium. It's okay. The guy. Look, man. It's still, even LeBron, man. They did LeBron post-game interview last night. And, that was the last question about Luka. And LeBron said, to be honest with you, I'm still processing it. This is all still surreal to me, to be honest with you. Yeah. And then he walked off the court. That's the level we're talking about here, that this was remotely possible. And Rob Pelinka pulled this off. And what they have now positioned themselves to do going forward with Luka Doncic for X amount of years, if they choose to keep him and Luka chooses to be there, what they just acquired, those players historically in not just the NBA, in sports, are not attainable. They're not attainable. Not somebody that is a good guy, that's like easy to be around in terms of just like as a teammate, ridiculously talented, and out of shape, dropping 33, 9, and 9. And listen, by the way, have you heard the comments that some of his teammates have made? The guys that were included in that trade, Moxie Kleba, Markieff Morris, have you heard what they had to say about this?
I actually haven't.
It was Moxie Kleba said he's one of the most competitive human beings he's ever been around. The dude wants to win so bad. Markieff Morris said, he's about to show everybody real soon what out of shape looks like. So listening to their comments, and it just kind of reinforced what I kind of already know. And that's what Markieff Morris said. He said, how out of shape can you be getting 30, 15, and 10 like it's nothing every night?
I know.
That's actually a really good point. These are the best athletes in the world, and Luka's dropping those numbers and apparently not in shape. Okay. Yeah. Well, my point is Rob Pelinka gets the shout out, man. These guys do not become available ever historically in sports, in any sport. They just don't. And he just got one.
Yeah. All right, let's get to our super chats. I hate that you're right about this one. I'm not giving a shout out to Rob Pelinka. He fell into his lap. Nico Harrison called him, had basketball conversations. I'm not giving him credit, although he did fleece him in the negotiations. Super chat here. Plus says MPJ, CB, and Zeke for KD. Would that work? And who says no? Suns are shopping him. I mean, I don't know if the Suns wanted Michael Porter Jr. for Kevin Durant. That's a lesser version. CB's a great player, Zeke. Look, man, I always dismiss these trades, and then Luka gets traded to the Lakers. So I got to stop dismissing this stuff.
Well, here's the thing. You know what this trade opened up, this Luka trade? There's nothing. You know how much I hate hypotheticals?
Fake trades, yeah.
You'll never meet a person that hates talking about potential trades more than I do, because 99% of what we talk about never is going to come to fruition, so we're wasting our time. It's just all fun, for people to play this game at home, I guess. I hate it. But what this has done is now there is no thing that anyone could say as a potential trade that you have to dismiss because it's ridiculous. That's what this has done. There is nothing that anybody can say anymore where I go, well, that can't happen. That'll never happen. I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore what'll happen, man, what can't happen. It's like Steph Curry said, there's only a few guys in this league that get to go to bed every night and go to sleep knowing where they're going to wake up tomorrow morning. Steph Curry said that the other day. That's true. That's what this has done. That's the level to which this has shocked the absolute core and the foundation of the NBA, that this is even possible. So, hey, man, listen, we're sitting here. It's Wednesday. It is what? It's noon Central Time. So it's what? 1 p.m. Eastern. We've got 26 hours to go this year in the trading deadline, and there is going to be some more, in my opinion, more blockbuster type stuff that's going to happen today, especially into tomorrow morning. So stay tuned. Yeah. My phone is constantly with my pocket because I know there's something about to drop.
Yeah. What's the next one here? Cedric Exquisite says, no, Adam, it's not random. Some of us want a Jokic plus Luka team up. Great show as always, Tim. If Katie ended up a Nugget, how awkward would it be for Westbrook? More theoreticals for you here.
Man, what do you think?
Katie and Westbrook. Jokic gets Katie and Westbrook their ring together. I mean, that sounds nice to me, but again, I'm with you, man. This stuff it's not as fun to me as it is to other people.
Well, I'll make a prediction. If they do that, if the Nuggets do that, and you end up with KD Westbrook paired there, I think the next move automatically they acquire Harden, and now they run back that original that OKC team when they were all like 20 years old, and then that didn't last very long, right? You run it back with that group. But look, KD is still incredible. He's a great player. I'm just curious as anybody to see where he ends up, because you're talking about Kevin Durant, man. He'll remind people what the impact he could have if he goes to the right spot. I mean, apparently Golden State is talking about getting him. I mean, he's talking about awkward for Westbrook. How about KD going back to Golden State after leaving there? I mean, it's just, who knows, man? Nothing's off the table in this league.
Yeah, nothing's off the table. What's our next one here? Invisible Predator 999 says Adam equals Charles Barkley. I'll take that. Legs equals Shaq. James equals Kenny or Ernie. All right, there you go. I'll take that one. I love that.
Oh, damn, man. Come on, man. I've been working out. You go. What's that Shaq comment supposed to be? Huh? Come on now.
I think it was a compliment, but I love how you took it.
Right.
I'm just saying James the Jet Smith sounds pretty good.
James the Jet. That's true. James the Jet Smith. It's not bad.
Hey, James, my question is, if we saw you on a court with a ball, will we still call you James the Jet after that?
Let's not worry about these type of things in the future.
Hypotheticals, James. Hypotheticals, right? We don't talk about those.
Yeah.
B-Ball Cthulhu found a way to project chaos between the Seal via Apostle Nico and High Priest Adam. Madness prevails and the B-Ball gods are falling to pieces. B-Ball Cthulhu says, you're welcome. Hey, man. Nobody gets the NBA right like B-Ball Cthulhu. He's been on it all year with these prophecies.
We got to get him. You should get him in the studio with you one day.
Him or her, who knows? Diz says, after the Luke thing, are super duper stars getting no trade clauses going to be more common? I don't think the NBA wants more trade clauses. I fear the other thing. I fear that players like Anthony Edwards, Jaylen Brown, this class of superstar might be looking over their shoulder nonstop now of like, hey, man, it's wild out here. One theory I heard actually, Legs, that you might find interesting on this point is that this might be a new collective bargaining agreement that has teams thinking more short term and less long term. When you have a superstar, you think we got 10 years, we're going to do all this stuff. There might just be more of a sense of, hey, make 2-year plans and don't think anything beyond that because things are changing. I don't know.
That's true. And I listen, I'm going to give you and this is going to probably be counterintuitive because I'm a former player. I think it is absurd that any player ever would get a no trade clause.
A no trade clause, yeah. Well, only Bradley Beal, really.
Any team would give that up. It blows my mind. And think about it. 2 guys in the league have it. LeBron, if you think somebody's going to have one, it would be LeBron. And the other one's Bradley Beal. And look what this is doing to the Suns. It doesn't make any sense. Because here's the other thing. Even if a guy had it, let's say they become more prevalent and more guys get them. The problem with it is this. Okay, a team gets to a place where they're thinking about trading you. Okay, and they come to you. And you go, nope, I'm good right here. Well, by the sheer fact that they came to you with that, doesn't that pretty much fracture the relationship? Right?
Yeah.
So at that point, you're going to have to go at some point. I guess all that does is let the player control where they go. And that limits completely the flexibility for the team.
Yeah.
And they're already giving you all the money. So shouldn't the teams hold on to that powerful thing? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me that anybody would get it. So to answer the question, no, I think fewer and fewer and fewer guys. I mean, if you can get fewer than 2, my point is, I don't think anybody gets those anymore.
I hate the dynamic right now between players and teams and fans and media. Everything right now just feels like it keeps getting further and further separated in a way I don't love. All right, we got 3 from the same guy here. The baller shot caller says, I know y'all covered this yesterday, but I agree with Tim that this is going to be the worst trade in sports history. Nico ruined our franchise overnight and still was joking at the press conference. Ridiculous. He goes on to say, no matter if we win with AD, it's not going to be the same. No more OKC rivalry. By the way, that part was very controversial in the comments yesterday. Some people agreed with you wholeheartedly. Some people disagreed and said, hey, if you win, all's forgiven. So it just kind of shows that there's different types of fans that view this differently.
Yeah, my theory and my thinking on it is that's not what this is about. It's not about the Mavericks winning now or the next 3 or 4 years, as Nico Harrison put it, as the future being 4 years. That's not what it's only about. That's
what
not
I'm talking about. Yeah.
Because you could have won potentially with Luka too, but you'll never know that. But here's what we do know for a fact: the player that everybody in that city idolized, loved, entertained, what we're entertained by. That guy is no longer there and is now going to only be judged how this trade goes down by what he does in another uniform. So for me, it's not about whatever the Lakers. And like I said, I'll be the first to admit it. I got 4 Mavericks games coming up, and I'm going to be calling it on the air and saying, man, this is a really good team. I have no doubt they're going to be really good. They might even look like a contender in the West this year, but they also were probably going to look like that when Luka came back and played himself into shape because they went to the finals last year. So my point is, yeah, they're going to be good. They might even, I don't know if they're going to win one, but they're going to be very good for the next foreseeable future with KD and AD. Or I'm sorry, Kyrie and AD. There's no doubt that's not the be all to end all, because number one, you will never know if you could have done that with Luka, and you definitely was a gut punch to the fan base and a guy this popular, this talented, this entertaining, also this damn good that has won this much by the age of 24. So that's my point. And now we just sit back and wait. As I said yesterday, it'll go down one of 2 ways. 5 years from now, he did the right thing because Luka hasn't won anything in LA, and there's still questions about him, and he's been hurt and blah, blah, blah. And then he's 30 and hasn't won, and it's going to look like Nico Harrison knew what he was talking about. Or 50 years from now, we'll be talking about this trade still. People will be talking about this trade and what ended up happening because Luka wins at a high level in LA. I don't think there's any in between.
He goes on to add, if we went through it all with Dirk, where we were going to do the same with Luka, it all meaning the climb, the long climb with the reward hopefully at the end. Last one, no matter how many trade picks we could have gotten, none of them are going to be Luka. Probably true, man. Luka comes around every 30 years, every 20 years, at best. It's probably going to be a while. All right, hit that outro music, James. We went long today. We appreciate everybody, everybody that stayed for the entire show. You guys know, all of you get the stamp. First teamer All-NBA show watchers. We appreciate you guys, man. We're going to be back again tomorrow, as I mentioned, at 4 Mountain. What's that? 6 Eastern. So in the afternoon, make sure you hit alerts. We'll try to get a shell up early. We're going to be reviewing all the trade moves that happen between now and then. Should be very exciting. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Subscribe. We'll see you on the other side.
Silly like the mayor.